Before we get into our big topic of today, which is crime, we're going to spend a lot of time on talking about crime. Watching television last night, and this ad popped up 2 or 3 times, and it so annoyed me, I thought I'd talk a little bit about it. Can you play that ad about Black Wall Street, please?
100 years ago, a beautiful empire built on black excellence was booming. Black Wall Street. It was a sight to be seen. Until one day, it was all burned to the ground. But fire is no match for the fire within black dreamers everywhere. And so, new Black Wall Streets rise. Citi is committed to helping build black businesses through banking.
Now, as you can see, it's a Citi ad, and it's a positive ad that Black Wall Street, which was in Tulsa, was burned to the ground. But because of Citi coming to the rescue, white savior corporation, black people can dream again. Here's the problem with the premise of the ad. Black Wall Street, they're talking about the 1921 Tulsa race massacre. I'm holding in my baby brown libertarian fingers an article called Rebuilding Black Wall Street. It's in Yes Magazine. Quote, most of the story about the 1921 Tulsa race massacre centers around the destruction of what is known as Black Wall Street. And it goes on and talks about the people that were assaulted, people that were killed. 26-1 advantage. The white mob burned, looted, and killed their way through one of the wealthiest black communities of the time, leaving an estimated 300 dead. By the way, that's still in dispute, but be that as it may. What isn't discussed, the article says, and what that commercial certainly did not address, is the following. How Black Wall Street rebuilt. The story of the rebirth begins just hours after the massacre. On June 2nd, 1921, the Tulsa Real Estate Exchange attempted to take over the black-owned business district. They wanted all this property. But a coalition of black lawyers fought back and ruled that an ordinance that was passed stopping Black Wall Street from being rebuilt was deemed illegal. It was rebuilt. Quote, by 1926, just a few years after the massacre, Tulsa had more hotels than Harlem. In 1929, according to a book called Riot and Remembrance, the Tulsa Race Massacre and Its Legacy, a social worker visited Tulsa and said this: there is probably no other case in history of America where a group of people in similar hostile community so quickly and so completely rebuilt a new Jerusalem upon the ashes of a fallen city with so limited financial resources, end of quote. Completely rebuilt, better than before in a matter of years. That was not even implied in that Citi ad. And that reminds me of another ad that annoyed me during one of the Super Bowls one year. Watch this.
Let me tell you about where I'm from.
Where I'm from, the digital divide makes equality nearly impossible.
When I get a job, I'll make $10,000 less than white people with the same skills.
Where I'm from, we overcome.
Okay. When I get a job, I make $10,000 less than white people with similar skills. Just follow that to its logical exclusion, to its logical conclusion. I'm a business owner, and I have a bunch of white people working for me. I can hire black people. They will be equally productive, and I can pay them 10 grand less. You know what I do with all the white people? I call them in on Monday morning into my office, and I say this: you're fired. It's a lie. An absolute lie. When you compare apples to apples, people that have graduated from the same kind of school, have been in the market for the same number of years, haven't taken time out for child rearing the way a lot of women do. There is no difference in their salaries if you're comparing apples to apples. It is just logically stupid. That's like they say every year during the Obama administration. Michelle Obama would come out and she said, you know, women make 87 cents on the dollar for doing exactly the same work as men do. Again, if you're running a business, whether you're a male or a female, you call all the men in and you say, I got a whole bunch of women over here who will be equally productive, but I can pay them 87 cents on the dollar. You guys are fired. It's nonsense. Yet there the Super Bowl ad is, hundreds of people, hundreds of millions of people across the world looking at this thing. And this Citigroup ad doesn't even tell you that Black Wall Street was completely rebuilt better than before within a matter of years. Now that brings us to the January 6th committee on the so-called insurrection. Here is what Adam Schiff said. He had strong evidence that Donald Trump committed a crime.
I certainly believe there's enough evidence for them to open investigations.
You hear that? I believe there's enough evidence for them to open up investigations. He continues.
Of several people. And so does Judge David Carter in California, who believes that the former president and others were engaged in likely multiple criminal acts. And so if the Justice Department concurs with Judge Carter, let alone my own view, or others, they should be pursuing that. And so, yes, I think there is sufficient evidence to open an investigation.
Okay. I think there is sufficient evidence, he says, to open investigation. Memo to Mr. Schiff, they are investigating. They have been investigating. No one is saying that there ought not be an investigation. What you are saying is that Donald Trump has committed a crime. And what I am saying is I bet my house that the DOJ is not going to bring criminal charges against Donald Trump. They're already investigating. So he goes on CNN with Don Lemon, who doesn't say anything, and he says, well, I think there's enough evidence to open up an investigation. They are investigating. Reuters, August 20, 2021. Exclusive FBI finds scant evidence U.S. Capitol attack was coordinated. FBI interviewed 570 alleged participants, Reuters says. The FBI, quote, at this time believes the violence was not centrally coordinated by far-right groups or supporters of then-President Donald Trump, according to sources who have been either directly involved in or briefly, regularly involved in the wide-ranging investigations. They are already investigating, Mr. Schiff. Nobody is saying there isn't evidence to investigate. Oh, I certainly think there's enough evidence to investigate. Blah, blah, blah. They already are investigating. Put up or shut up regarding charges. That's what we're talking about here. And again, the Reuters headline says, FBI finds scant evidence U.S. Capitol attack was coordinated, sources say. This is again back in August. So there's not going to be any charges. Believe me. Can we now turn to the topic of the day, which is crime? Sadly, 2 L.A. County Sheriff's deputies were murdered. Watch this.
Poppy and Alex, good morning. We know those 2 officers didn't make it home to their families last night. One had at least 22 years with the department, the other less than a year. It's still early in the investigation, but authorities told us the 2 officers approached the suspect in this motel room in El Monte, California. And that's when the first officer-involved shooting took place. That suspect who died on the scene took off. He fled from the motel room. Another shooting occurred in the parking lot area. Those 2 officers were transported to the hospital where they later died, leaving this community devastated.
Now, suspect, name was Justin Flores, 35 years old. Long criminal record, but for the soft on crime policies, he would not have been out on the streets. Arrested in 2020, possession of meth, a handgun, and ammunition. Pled no contest to possessing a firearm. Previously served 2 prison terms for burglary and car theft. Had been prohibited from carrying a gun since 2011. The gun conviction alone could have sent him to prison for 3 years. Instead, 2 years probation, 20 days in jail, which he'd already served. Ordered not to possess any weapons, including guns, ammunition, knives. 2 law enforcement officials say that had he been charged and put into jail for the time that his sentences would have allowed, would not have been on the streets. Now, we come back. A New Jersey jewelry store in a blatant smash and grab, $1 million of merchandise taken in 60 seconds. Don't forget, 888-971-7243 if you ever want to make a call. And make sure that you do not engage in any profanity if you can. And make sure the call is under 59 seconds. And don't forget, 20 minutes after, switch over to Epoch Times epochtime.com in order to continue watching the live show. I'll be right back. One of the reasons that we are asking you to go to Epoch Times TV after 20 after is because so much of our stuff gets censored on YouTube. For example, we talked about the January 6th committee hearings. We talk about COVID. We talk about the election of 2020. Censored. That's why you got to go to Epoch Times TV at 20 after to continue getting the live show unhooked, uncontrolled, unsuppressed. Now, imagine working in a jewelry store in New Jersey. A bunch of people come up and you are thrown down to the ground and a gun is pointed at you and your store is looted of $1 million worth of merchandise in 60 seconds. Watch this. Wow. And that was that. 60 seconds, $1 million worth of merchandise. And as you can see, one of the store employees had a gun pointed to the head and appears to have been viciously assaulted. That brings us to the DAs here in California, Chesa Boudin, who's now been recalled. Over 60% of the voters in liberal San Francisco recalled this man. And the LA County DA, George Gascon, will be facing a recall election in November because as of right now, enough signatures have been now gathered. This is the second time. First time, enough signatures were not gathered. This time, enough have been gathered to place it on the ballot come November. And having watched what happened to Chesa Boudin, his ideological soulmate, my suspicion is by the time November rolls around, he's going to start sounding like Dirty Harry. But we'll find out. Now, after Chesa Boudin was removed, George Soros says, we weren't backing him, even though George Soros, either directly or indirectly through other organizations that he set up, gave money to the Chesa Boudin campaign, without which he would not have won. All of a sudden now they're trying to distance themselves from him. We didn't back him. We weren't supporting him. We didn't send any money. In other words,
I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
Now, a former LA County DA, who is the co-chair of the Recall Gascon Committee, said right before they gathered the signatures, we can do this. Watch this.
Well, obviously, I think it was a big lift to people in Los Angeles to recognize that their voices can be heard. And we have less than a month, so we are slated right now to turn in all of our signed petitions by July 6th. So we have to gather over 566,000, so over 500,000 signatures, and we have to turn those in. I will say that right now we believe that we certainly have a pathway to do that. We've got volunteer signature gatherers out every day.
And the good news is they did have a pathway to do that. And as I said, just days ago, they gathered enough signatures. So now this man is going to be facing a recall election. And believe me, we're going to be championing his recall. Now, compared to 2021, out here in LA where I am, violent crime has increased more than 7% year to year, according to LAP data just now released. You remember when Whoopi Goldberg said this?
What are we doing? Because why are we always at square one with this? And I swear to God, if I see another Republican senator talk about their heart being broken, I'm going to go punch somebody.
And thoughts and prayers.
I can't take it in their thoughts and prayers.
Yeah.
If your thoughts and prayers were really with everybody, you'd have done something by now.
I swear to God, if I ever hear another Republican talk about their thoughts and prayers, I'm going to go and punch somebody. So the answer to violence is more violence, but I digress. There was a shooting here in LA at a rapper's party. 3 dead, 4 injured. One LAPD detective called it, quote, the worst shooting incident of the year regarding fatalities. It was an underground warehouse party to celebrate the rapper's birthday. People have not identified a suspect, not uncommon when there's these gang-related things, because there's a no snitch ethos. That is why in Chicago, something like 70% of the homicides are unsolved, because many of them are gang-related, and rather than snitch and fear retaliation, rather than snitch and help the man, for whatever reason, these crimes are unsolved. And so far, they've not identified a suspect. The rapper, however, said this: I want to get on here real quick to send my condolences to what happened after the Page show yesterday. I pray for all the people who are injured. My condolences and heart goes out to the families. So this guy is saying prayers and condolences, and he's not even a Republican. So when a rapper offers prayers and condolences, it's different than when a Republican offers prayers and condolences. When a rapper offers it, I guess this is the reaction.
Never mind.
Now, the mayor of New York, concerned about the record levels of NYPD retirements, was asked, are you concerned about all of this? Here's what he said.
Mr. Mayor, are you concerned? There are reports that over 500 cops are resigning and over 1,000 are retiring. Does that concern you?
No, it does not.
Record number of cops retiring. Hundreds of officers short. NYPD Police Department. Does that concern you? Not at all. I'll tell you why. Security detail. Man is surrounded by security, so why should he be concerned? But the average person in New York, extremely concerned, particularly those who live in high crime areas, which is where the bulk of this takes place, as even the New York Times admitted. We'll get to that later on. We come back. A Louisiana woman was raped when she was 16 years old by a 30-year-old man. They call that statutory rape. He was never prosecuted because she was told you need to bring charges the day after the alleged rape. She was misled. So she's raised this girl by herself, who's now 16 years old. Guess who now is trying to get custody? And guess what, by the way, who was paid child support? The rapist. Stunning story. We'll talk about that when we come back. And again, don't forget, switch over to Epic Times to watch the rest of the show, because we are being banned, suppressed, mistreated, maltreated. They call it elder abuse on YouTube. So if you want to continue hearing the story without any kind of interference, go to Epic Times TV to hear the rest of the show. We are live. And don't forget, right back on this story about this incredible story of the woman who was raped, and now her rapist is demanding justice. I kid you not. Don't go away. People have been asking me, what have you been doing with your life since the election? Well, the truth is I've been enjoying life, riding my bike around town.
Oh, they're not wearing a mask.
I've taken up a little bit of fishing as well.
Elder kills innocent fish.
And I've been posting on social media. Oh, come on. Listen, if you're tired of the censorship as I am, I've actually got some great news for you. Check out epictv.com. It's a brand new censorship-free video platform where you'll find not only my show, but other deep documentaries, great content, and honest movies that bring you the news without all the spin and the false narratives. So, check out epictv.com. I'll see you there.